I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking about heavy metals. Now, this is something that we're all exposed to. So we wanted to talk about how we can minimize our risk, how these heavy metals actually impact both male and female fertility, with sperm counts, with endometriosis, with fibroids, with estrogen dominance. We go into the details as to how each heavy metal will impact your hormones, and then simple steps you can take right now actually to minimize your risk. So excited for you to listen to this episode. Hey there, thanks so much for listening to the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast. And I've got a favor to ask you. If you are enjoying learning about the functional approach to fertility, consider going to iTunes and rating and reviewing the podcast. This is how it helps the show reach more people that are struggling with infertility, knowing that there's another approach that really can get to the bottom of why it's not working in the first place. So all you need to do is, if you're on the app or the desktop, just go in and consider leaving a 5-star rating and leave a review. And there is step-by-step instructions in the show notes showing you exactly how to do that. So if you can just take a few minutes, just take the few minutes right now. You can pause this recording, come back, leave the review. It would really mean the world to me and help others that are on the fertility journey as well. Take care. Hey there. I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 2 spots available per month to work with us. So the Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery call is for action takers. Really people who are ready to move forward so they can finally have their baby. And if you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. So if you're seriously considering working with us, go to FabFertile, FabFertile.com and click on book a free call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. That's FabFertile, FabFertile.com, and click on book a free call. One theme that keeps coming up with the couples in our FabFertile Couples Coaching Program is sleep. Whether it's insomnia, having a hard time falling asleep, waking up at night, or feeling tired when we wake up, sleep is critical for fertility and hormones. And that's why I'm so excited to have Blue Blocks as our podcast sponsor. So we're exposed to blue and green light from our phones, our tablets, our computers, indoor lights, and more. And this exposure impacts our melatonin production. And melatonin is essential for both female and male fertility. It helps determine the frequency and duration of our cycle and impacts sperm. There's lots of blue light blocking glasses on the market, but the ones from Blue Blocks, they've actually compared other popular brands, and Blue Blocks block 100% of blue and green light, while other brands fall short. So I have their sleep glasses. They have red lenses, and the ones I have are a little translucent frame, and they're so stylish and really cool. And so they eliminate 100% of the blue and green light in the 400 nanometer to 550 nanometer range. So this is the exact range that has been shown in clinical studies to disrupt melatonin and negatively impact your sleep. So all you do is wear your sleep glasses after sunset until it's time for bed, and you'll notice improved sleep after just one use. And it's also cool to use when you're flying for managing jet lag. So I got to say I was a little skeptical about the noticing improvement after one use, but literally I use these glasses and my sleep is actually already pretty good. I used them for one day, and I have to say after one day, I had the best sleep of my life. I just felt so rested. So these glasses, they ship free and they're tracked for all orders anywhere in the world. And also they have all their frames come in prescription, non-prescription, and reading glasses. Plus you can send in your frames and they'll add the blue light blocking and green light blocking lenses to your frame. So this is an easy hack that you can add to your fertility toolkit. All you do is go to BlueBlocks, BLUBLOX.com. Use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast at checkout and receive a 15% discount. That's BlueBlocks, BLUBLOX.com, and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast to receive your 15% discount. I didn't need to go to donor eggs. Obviously, I don't regret it. I have beautiful children. I could have done things differently, restored. I was still cycling back in my 20s. I could have looked at my health, the environmental toxins, the stress I was under.
Many women are being told their eggs are too old. That's often merely an assumption that's not based on actual evidence. The reason being that there is no direct test of egg quality. You can't test egg quality.
It's the man who's got a food sensitivity or he has a zinc deficiency.
Like there can be a root cause to these symptoms that are, quote unquote, period problems, that the doctor will pass you a pill without any question of why.
And some part of you knows that if you can reframe your journey from not one of struggle, or if it is struggle, learn how to embrace the struggle. Learn how to embrace it.
Most conditions in the child occur during the 9 months of development. It's the genetic switches are turned on or turned off, and they're pre-programmed. So you are in such a powerful, amazing position to do amazing things for your kids.
You know, why is IVF the first step? Because we believe it should be the last step. Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey there, I'm Sarah Clark, founder of Fab Fertile and your host. I believe the functional approach is the first step for anyone struggling with infertility, and my aim is to help you get pregnant naturally. Today, I'm welcoming Wendy Myers to the podcast. We're digging into heavy metals and how they can impact your fertility. Wendy Myers is founder of MyersDetox.com. She's a detox expert, functional diagnostic nutritionist, and NES bioenergetic practitioner in LA, California. She is the #1 best-selling author of Limitless Energy, How to Detox Toxic Metals to End Exhaustion and Chronic Fatigue. And Wendy's podcast is the Myers Detox, and she has helped thousands of clients with her Myers Detox protocol. Thanks so much for listening. And I'm so thankful that you are here. Make sure you hit subscribe. And if you know someone else who is on the fertility journey, please share this podcast with them. Hey, Wendy, excited to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So if you could share with us how you really got to do this work.
Well, I'm like a lot of women, I found myself in my mid-30s really just not feeling that great. And I went to my doctor and said, test me, figure out what's wrong with me. I was exhausted. I was, not able to lose weight. I just had a baby about a year prior. And I thought, I don't think mommy brain is on the table anymore. I think I'm recovered from that. And trouble losing weight, trouble sleeping, having, really a lot of bouts of anger. And I just felt like I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. So I went to the doctor, figured out what's wrong with me, did about $4,000 worth of tests. And she told me I had the hormone levels of a menopausal woman at 37, which I was thrilled to hear. And then I had low thyroid hormones, low adrenal stress hormones, nutrient deficiencies, and just all kinds of stuff. And I thought, wow, I take really good care of myself. I eat an amazing diet. I grow food. I go to the farmer's market. I cook my own food. It's all organic. I exercise a few hours a week. I take a bag full of high quality supplements. Like, what exactly is it do I need to do to feel well? And I was just really frustrated at the amount of time that I spent working on my health. And so the doctor wanted to put me on hormone replacement therapy. And I thought, that's for older women, right? And isn't that dangerous also? Which I didn't realize at the time. That's not necessarily true. So I'd opted for something else. I went on Dr. Google and thought, what interferes in hormones? There's got to be something interfering in them. Why am I not producing them? Or why don't women produce hormones? And I kept hitting upon heavy metals, chemicals, xenoestrogens, and things like that. And I thought, well, if I remove this stuff, then I could restore my hormone function to a degree. And I didn't have infertility issues or anything like that. But, a lot of women do struggle from fertility or with fertility issues because of toxins that they acquired in the air, food, and water, and just are really not aware of them. They have, chronic levels of them that they're absorbing over years and years, decades. And then at some point they hit, like a tipping point where it starts manifesting in symptoms. And for many women, it manifests as infertility.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can relate to the anger piece because I had that. And then, I went into menopause. Well, I had premature ovarian failure at 28, had both my kids with donor eggs, and definitely years later is like that, on the floor kind of moment where you're like, wait a minute, my health is suffering. The same like you with the thyroid issues and then adrenal issues. And then you just discover all these different things. And nutrient balance was one of the big ones for me. And so it's always like this seems to be a long journey, but you definitely in the beginning can see like really good results fairly quickly, but it's not a perfect thing. You're always working on your health. At least that's the case for me. I'm sitting here with 3 different beverages. I got like tea, and then I have some other little thing. And so there's always like a work in progress. But thanks for sharing your journey with that. And it's really, so you talked about heavy metals. So how How do those impact our fertility and hormone balance? You were mentioning that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of toxins that impact fertility. And so, number one, if you have low sex hormones or imbalanced hormones, it's going to throw a wrench in getting pregnant or producing viable sperm. And so some heavy metals that impact hormones are mercury, lead, thallium, which is naturally occurring in petroleum deposits that we're breathing in from car exhaust and industry, arsenic, aluminum, tin, and cesium. And cesium is just in our environment from nuclear accidents, nuclear testing, and it's in everyone that I've tested. And so that it's a cesium. So it's CESIUM.
Okay.
And then and how these work is they basically inhibit the function of hydroxylase enzymes within the adrenal cortex and the sex organs that make sex hormones. And these hydroxylase enzymes are very susceptible to heavy metal inhibition. And so they just pretty much poison your body's ability to produce hormones and to convert hormones into other hormones. Like, for instance, with DHEA, this pathway is very susceptible to toxins. And DHEA is converted into testosterone, which is then converted into estrogen. So if you don't make enough DHEA, then you're not going to make enough testosterone or estrogen. And if you have toxins, it's going to throw a wrench into that conversion of that DHEA into other hormones. And I can go into each of these metals and describe kind of what they're doing and what hormones they're interfering. But there's other toxins as well. So there's chemicals like organophosphates, pesticides, insecticides, herbicides like glyphosate that's pretty much sprayed on most non-organic crops. And even organic crops can be contaminated with it, unfortunately. And so these throw a huge wrench into hormones. Phthalates are things in beauty and household cleaner products. It's an additive that helps keep the smell or color in your clothes or on your floor or what have you. And then there's stress as well, emotional stress, trauma, work, family. Stress throws a huge wrench in fertility as well. But trauma, I think, is a huge, huge factor, a huge toxin, really, if you will, that really affects physical functioning, the release of an egg, lowered sperm production, things like that throw a wrench in things. But as far as like the heavy metals, cadmium, mercury, nickel, lead, copper also can interfere in the production or action of hormones. So there's significantly higher levels of mercury in women with PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome. And that's because, mercury lowers progesterone levels, but it can increase estrogen. It also impairs ovulation and it lowers thyroid hormone production and conversion of thyroid hormones. And these are all causes of infertility.
And getting exposure with mercury, so shellfish and tuna, amalgam fillings.
Yes. Yeah. And so air is a big one because of coal burning. And there's a high level of mercury, cadmium, and lead and other metals in coal. And when that's burned for just industry or in gasoline, whatnot, different forms of petroleum, all release mercury into the air. So that's really probably one of the biggest sources. And that when it gets into the air, then it sinks into the ocean and gets into our fish and our food supply. It settles onto soil. And it's in 400 different medications as well. It's a great preservative, kills bacteria. So there's just a lot of different sources where we can accumulate mercury.
Yeah, vaccines.
Yeah, vaccines. And it's not as much of an issue. There's been a lot of awareness around that, but it still can be in the big community vials of like the flu vaccine. But now aluminum is actually more of an issue in the vaccines, which has its own whole host of neurological problems that it causes. And then copper is a big one. I mean, we need copper, but many women are either deficient in copper or they're copper toxic. There's usually some like copper imbalance that women can have that can contribute to infertility. Copper IUDs can contribute to high copper levels. And some women are affected by this, some aren't. And it just depends on someone's predisposition. But copper has an affinity for estrogen. So when one rises, so does the other. So the higher the copper, the higher estrogen in your body. And also this can decrease progesterone levels as well. And add to this, it also impairs thyroid function. All these things contribute to infertility.
Copper pipes, is that another one for exposure?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't find a high correlation with copper pipes and copper toxicity because a lot of people have copper piping in their home, and I'm just not finding that that's really getting into the water. And it's one of the reasons it's used. But really, people get actually too much copper in supplements. They can overdose I usually recommend people do maybe copper-free supplements, but I prefer people getting copper in food, like with maybe beef liver, nuts, and things like that. But vegetarians who are primarily eating copper-rich proteins can tend to become copper toxic because they're just getting too much in their diet.
The main exposure would be the IUD, but then it's also some foods as anywhere else?
Yes. So, gosh, I can't think of it off the top of my head. But I have an article on my site. It's on myersdetox.com. There's a blog post called the Toxic Metals Sources and Symptoms Guide. And that will give you for every metal, the most common sources based on my research and all the different symptoms that one can experience if they're toxic in that metal. And the list is pretty long.
Yeah.
And then there's lead. So lead is, everyone has lead toxicity. Everyone. It's impossible not to have lead. And it's stored primarily in your bones. And it can make bones actually look denser on bone scans. And it was used in paint until about the 1970s. And so any house that was built before 1978, usually going to have lead in the paint. So if you're doing any kind of repair or repainting or demolition or anything like that, rehabbing it, you can get a tremendous amount of lead exposure from your home, and there's going to be lead in the dust. And it's estimated that about 30 to 50% of the population lives in houses built before 1978. And so you're just going to be at greater risk of inhaling lead. And especially if you have young children, forget it. You do not want to do any type of, rehabbing, or if you're trying to get pregnant or are pregnant, do not want to be living in a home where they're rehabbing it, for sure. Especially, repainting where they're even the outside of the house. If there's scratching off the paint, sanding it down, that is a recipe for disaster that can affect young children for life and your unborn child as well. Other sources of lead include soil contamination, because we used leaded gasoline for years. And so this lead got into the atmosphere, settled on our soils where it has persisted. And it gets into vegetables. It can be in the water used to water the vegetables. And even water pipes that are made of lead are still in use. And that's not usually a problem unless a city uses chloramine to disinfect the waters. If they use chloramine, because it's cheaper than chlorine, then that can leach lead from the pipes. But if it's chlorine, that tends to be fairly stable. And cosmetics, also lipsticks, are a big source of lead. And lead inhibits progesterone and it impairs prolactin production, creating irregular periods. Lead can also inhibit estrogen, testosterone, and cortisol. And so all of these imbalances can lead to infertility.
Yeah, and reduces testicular function in men too. So
yeah,
just female. Yeah. And what about tap water?
Yeah, well, tap water, don't even get me started. Because that, it inhibits, tap water, number one, inhibits thyroid function because it has fluoride and chlorine and bromine in it, depending on what disinfectant is being used. And fluoride just added to the water, some outdated notion that it reduces cavities, which is just crazy. We get this in our shower water. Even if you're drinking perfectly filtered water, most people are showering, 99.98% of people are showering in unfiltered tap water. And that gives us pharmaceutical drugs. It gives us tons of chemicals, herbicides, parasites. Just so many things that readily absorb through our skin into our body. And so I have a whole house water filter, and that may be out of reach for some people, but phprescriptions.com has a great shower head that filters metals. And it's the only one I know of that does so. So it gets heavy metals and it gets chlorine and fluoride as well, which inhibit thyroid function.
pH prescriptions. Yeah, I use a Perky, but maybe.
Yeah, those are great too. Yeah, those are great too. I like pH prescriptions because it just, they have every type of water filter to meet every need, from someone that has a $250 budget to they have this crazy shower system that's like $100,000. But you can take like vitamin showers. You can program in a little iPad if you want like a GABA, lavender essential oil, magnesium shower. It's just crazy. So they just have something for everybody there.
And also lead can be in water as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then there's cadmium. Yeah. So this is very insidious, cadmium. And so this is found in pesticides. It's found in fertilizers. It's found in animal fodder, and definitely in non-organic animal products. And it's also found in shellfish, fish. Anytime you have mercury in fish, you're also going to have cadmium. It's also found in the air that we breathe. It's just it's found in a lot of places. And the nasty thing about cadmium that it's stored in the pituitary gland, which is the master gland that signals to your thyroid, adrenals, and ovaries. And it's excreted through breast milk as well. And even low-level exposure to cadmium can interfere with hormone production. And it can, and so essentially, it affects thyroid function and interrupts signaling to the ovaries. This is linked to low progesterone, low prolactin levels, more potent androgens like testosterone, and it plays a big role in infertility because of this. And cadmium levels are also shown to be elevated in women with endometriosis, uterine fibroids, and those who've had recurrent miscarriages. And that's because cadmium increases the number of natural killer immune cells. And these need to be low during pregnancy to allow a baby to grow in the mother's body. And if they're high, these can harm the fetus and cause, miscarriages.
So it's cigarette smoke, water, fertilizers, air pollution, fish. What types of fish?
Oh, really? It's the large migratory fish.
Okay.
So, the big eye tunas, king mackerels, perhaps orange roughy, and, sharks, swordfish, things like that. You want any kind of high mercury fish probably has cadmium. You want to avoid it. But yeah, the cigarette smoke is key too. I'm glad you brought that up because, that's why smokers get cancer and hardened arteries and heart disease. It's because of the cadmium. And people that smoke marijuana medicinally or recreationally, they're also getting a dose of cadmium as well, just to be aware of that.
And then coffee.
Oh, yeah. Coffee. Yeah. Coffee can have cadmium too. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And plastics too, which we talked about.
Yeah. That's what gives it that little kick. It's not just the caffeine, but the cadmium content can vary widely in coffee depending on where it's grown.
And also impacts male fertility as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then there's nickel. Nickel is found pretty much everywhere. It's in the air, the soil, and food. Margarine is one of the foods highest in nickel because nickel is used in the process that solidifies that fat to make it shelf stable. So wherever you see hydrogenated oils or interestified, fats, that's going to have nickel in it. Fast food also has a lot of these fats, so it has nickel. Tea can also be high in nickel, like rooibos teas. Okay. The red teas can be high in nickel. They're fine occasionally. Here's the thing. All foods have some metals, so we just want to avoid the most obvious sources. I don't want people to get too worked up about any one food. I mentioned we just have to have a sensible detox program because all of our environment's contaminated. So there's not much avoiding it, but we just want to avoid the most obvious high sources of contamination.
Yeah, I used to have a nickel allergy when I was wearing nickel jewelry.
Yeah. Nickel is the most common allergy. So it's the most common metal allergy.
Yeah, earrings and watches, all these sort of things back years ago. And we used to wear that stuff. It just gave me huge rashes and stuff.
Yeah. And that's really common. And, nickel can also be a big catalyst for autoimmune diseases as well, because it just irritates the immune system. And so There was a study published that showed that women with endometriosis had significantly higher nickel levels than others. So they had about 2.6 micrograms per liter in their blood compared to women without endometriosis that had about 0.8 micrograms per liter. And this is possibly because nickel acts as an estrogen. It's a metalloestrogen, and it creates an estrogen dominant environment. And nickel also decreases iodine uptake in the thyroid, and it also inhibits the release of prolactin and growth hormone. And because of this can induce insulin resistance and infertility as well. So this is just this is maybe 6 metals we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Then there's also metals that interfere in energy production. Arsenic, aluminum, tin, thallium, cesium. These all poison your mitochondria and reduce your body's ability to produce energy. And if you're exhausted, you're going to have poor gut integrity, gut lining integrity, which can lead to leaky gut. That can lead to a whole host of food sensitivities, this huge, energy drain on your body. You're constantly stressed, fighting all this stuff going on. And, and if you're stressed like that, that's going to reduce your ability to have a child and procreate. So indirectly, that can affect fertility.
Going to arsenic and rice.
Yeah. Arsenic, it's a big issue. Rice, the organic rice has less, mm-hmm. and the white rice has less arsenic. So I tend to not really eat brown rice unless it's a unique one, like a black or red or green rice, something kind of fancy. But I'm not a huge fan of brown rice because the arsenic is found in the bran. And so I do white rice from California. I love Lundberg rice. It's a really nice one. The rice is grown in the southern United States can have more arsenic because it was used, there was a pesticide that had high arsenic levels that was used in the South, and it can persist in the soils.
Yeah, I do white as well, but for years I did brown because I thought it was healthier.
Yeah, it has a few more nutrients, but not enough to make it worth the cost. There's always a cost-benefit analysis you have to do with every food.
And what about aluminum? Using aluminum foil and things like that.
Yeah. Aluminum can be a big issue. I mean, everyone has aluminum. It's absolutely impossible to not have it. It's one of the number one metal toxicities that people have. The top 3 are aluminum, lead, and mercury. And it's in our air. We're breathing that in. People are using aluminum foil for various things. It can be part of mercury amalgam fillings. Aluminum is an anti-caking agent used in, flour, salt, baking soda, things like that. Things that people are eating every day in baked goods. It's the adjuvant in vaccines, which is really problematic. And, you have to be careful in pregnancy. Getting vaccines in pregnancy can cause fetal abortion because the high dose aluminum kills brain cells and can cause brain swelling, seizures, nervous system disorders. Aluminum is very neurophilic, and so causes a lot of issues in that regard.
Okay. Anything else before we go into strategies to help?
I think we covered it. I know it sounds very depressing, but there's a lot that you can do. My goal is to just bring awareness to people that these things are interfering in your hormones, and you just need to be aware of it. There's a little bit of a learning curve involved, but all you guys are health enthusiasts. You're up for it. And learning about heavy metal toxicity can go a long way to help you meeting your health goals, because you're just not getting exposed to this information or looking at metal toxicity or chemical toxicity as one of the root causes as your health issues when you're going to your medical doctor or even functional medical doctor. And it's a gross oversight because there's dozens of metals, there's 100,000 chemicals, it's estimated, in our environment. There's no way it's not affecting you. It's affecting every different metabolic function in your body, your blood sugar control, your lung function, your menses, your fertility, your brain function. So looking into this and doing something on a daily basis to try to get your body working better so your body can release these toxins goes a long way to increasing your life and how much better your body functions.
Absolutely. So what would be some first steps for us to do?
Yes. So the first thing I recommend people do is take minerals. something that, a lot of people are doing, but they may not be taking enough minerals. They may not be taking trace minerals. They might not be taking the right form of minerals. It really helps to raise their nutritional levels. So that's just basics, magnesium, zinc, potassium, selenium, and then some people need calcium, not everyone. And then doing a trace mineral supplement as well is super key, because your body works with minerals, all of the different enzymatic processes. Minerals work like the spark plugs of the body. It's not going to work well if it doesn't have what it needs. And so just doing that alone solves a lot of other problems. So that's really key.
So magnesium, zinc, potassium, selenium, I'm taking all those. Yay. So,
yes.
Yeah, not because actually I did the hair tissue mineral analysis test, and lo and behold, I was a mess. So
yeah,
basically a work in progress as we learn more. So basically for me, because I was on birth control for 10 plus years, which we see a lot with the women that we work with, and their nutrient stores are low. So magnesium, we did a podcast. I think it's like 85% of us are deficient in magnesium. I used to get those leg cramps and eye twitches and feet swelling, and you start taking magnesium and rubbing it on the soles of your feet before you go to bed as well, and those things start to go away, and your sleep improves too.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you have to have minerals, number one, to reduce stress, because you're going to be really stressed if you don't have what you need to run your body. And so you might not really, think that you're stressed, but once you start taking minerals and you feel more relaxed and you sleep better, then you realize, oh, I've upped my game here. And because people aren't always aware of how bad they feel until they feel better.
It's true. Yeah.
And I keep discovering this.
It's true. Yeah. Because people trying to have a baby, typically they're not a sick population. They want to have a baby and they feel fine until you realize that you could actually feel awesome. And that's then you really prepare your body for a baby.
Yeah, exactly. And when I'm working with detoxing people, the first thing, I'm not going to just run in and like, hey, let's taste something and rip out these metals. That's kind of how people think. But I'm really just trying to get people's body working better to facilitate their body's ability to exit this stuff as it comes in. Really.
I've heard people talking about doing IVs with selenium to really help boost the immune system. Have you heard of that, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know if you could really high dose because usually with IV therapy, they're kind of doing high dose nutrients. And certainly, I've done IV therapy, I've done IV vitamin C and glutathione and minerals. I haven't heard of selenium, but certainly you can inject any nutrient into your body. And that's certainly key for people who have absorption issues or leaky gut, or, it's, just mainline it and you bypass that digestive process.
Absolutely. Okay. So we start with the minerals, and then what would we do next?
Yeah. The next thing I do is try to ground people's body, because we're so affected by EMF or electromagnetic fields from wireless internet, our computers, our phones, our neighbors' internet, dirty electricity in the walls. Appliances can emit crazy amounts of EMF that negatively impact your body's functioning. And the research shows EMF does impact fertility. Lots of research studies that show this. And so why does it do that? Well, it creates this positive charge on your body when your body is supposed to be negatively charged. Very simple. And so, if your body isn't, working how it's been evolutionarily designed to work over millions of years, which is grounded, sleeping on the earth, walking on the earth, swimming in the ocean, it's not going to function correctly. So just kind of reversing that positive charge on the body goes a long way to just correcting a lot of other downstream issues. And I do that with a water called Wata. It's WATTAHH, and you can get that on aquanew.com. And I also do it with something called a Harmony Pendant, and that's at Harmony with an I pendant.com. That's a great way to help ground the body. And I also, there's a mat I really like called the Pure Wave Now.com mat. And that's fantastic for kind of just clearing off any of these non-native frequencies from the body's cells and charging up the cells, washing off the EMF, so the body functions a lot better.
Is that one of those crystal mats, or?
It's not a crystal mat. It's not a traditional PEMF mat, but it's more like PEMF and PMI, and it's also sending a lot of other frequencies to the body. Because what is EMF? It's a frequency. It's a frequency that doesn't work in our body. It's non-native. And our bodies emit all kinds of frequencies, but this mat helps to just correct the charge or the frequency on the cell membrane so it works better.
Just tell me about that Harmony pendant. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, so the Harmony pendant is great. So it's just a very simple, wearable, functional jewelry, and that helps to kind of correct your body's energy field. It sounds kind of woo-woo, but they have studies that show this, that, it improves the HRV or heart rate variability after people wear it, and which is a marker of stress that's used studies in Harvard. It improves people's heart rate variability. It reduces their stress. And we also can show that it improves people's mitochondrial functioning over a few weeks. It also just helps them sleep better, gives them more energy. So it's just kind of something I use when I'm starting working with clients to just get their body into kind of a more parasympathetic state, a more relaxed state. And you have to be in that state to heal, to sleep better, to detox, to whatever you're trying to do. We've got to get you in that parasympathetic state. And so many people under so much stress that they're not even aware of, from EMF and nutritional stress and not absorbing their food and emotional stress, a trauma. All these things really impact us. And I worked for years with clients, and just some people they could not get better because they didn't know how to consciously get rid of their stress, or just doing meditation didn't work, or things the needle wasn't moving for them. And I realized that I had to do something to, just quickly improve their stress levels. And so the Harmony pendant works. So that's what I use.
And the Aqua Nu, so that's water then, water.
Yeah. So you're not drinking it for the water. It has the 5th phase of water, which is a gas, injected into it. And that gives you tons of electrons, or negative ions rather, which grounds your body. And that gives you tons of oxygen, tons of hydrogen. And it really just floods your body with all these different things that you need. And what I find is after people start drinking the water, with the first 4 days, 3 or 4 days, they're usually very euphoric. Their oxygen is finally getting over to that blood-brain barrier and really lighting up their brain. And it causes this euphoric feeling, like people just feel joy. But it's also these negative ions where it's just changing the grounding of their body so it works better. So it's just helping on a lot of levels.
Yeah, and I was just interviewing someone today from the founder of Defender Shield, talking about EMFs and obviously with microwaves. And he talked about even our hair dryers getting EMFs, and obviously our cell phones, Wi-Fi, and tablets and laptops. So we're exposed all around, and it's not to panic; it's to bring awareness and really, put the phone on flight mode and don't put it to your ear.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things also with the EMF is that I talk about it quite a bit because, the exposures are only increasing. There's satellite, there's about 60 5G satellites a month going up into the atmosphere. And so even if you've done everything in your home to protect yourself, then there's the satellites. So if people are having trouble getting pregnant, they have mystery illness, you might be EMF sensitive, or you might not be thinking about this kind of, hidden wrench that's, throwing a wrench into your health and causing mystery illness. And again, doctors are not looking at this.
Mm-hmm. So minerals, EMFs, and where would you go next?
Yeah. And then just basic nutrition, giving people the nutrients they need to detox. B vitamins is really key. Mm-hmm. And, giving people binders. A binder is something like a fiber. Like I give people grapefruit citrus pectin and fulvic humic acid. Those are great at absorbing a lot of different toxins, kind of like a passive detox. And I created a product called CitraCleanse that has those ingredients in them and some cilantro extract. And that really helps to kind of clean up the body without doing a really taxing detox, or, people don't tend to react to binders, but they have to drink a lot of water with them because they have fiber in them. And so taking a binder is really key. B vitamins and enzymes, pancreatic enzymes is really key. And I said the trace minerals as well, and the macro minerals. And that's a really good detox. Minerals displace metals in the body. They push them out of the body. And just minerals by themselves are a pretty deep detox.
Yeah. Now, as far as die-off and reactions with that, what are you noticing?
Well, with minerals, you don't tend to have a big you don't really have like a die-off reaction, more like kind of a healing crisis, or they call it a Herxheimer reaction or detox reactions. And so there's certainly some people that experience those. Usually the sicker they are, the worse detox symptoms they'll have. But these can be mitigated by taking a binder, by drinking a lot of water, by doing coffee enemas, doing liver flushes. A lot of people, their little bottleneck is their liver. And so I have a 14-day liver rehab cleanse that teaches people all about the liver, how to do a liver flush, how to do a coffee enema, and, just how to get it working properly, and the importance of doing that.
I've read about coffee enemas for years. Like, I contemplated getting the stuff, and I've never actually done it. Can you just talk to us about coffee enemas? Because it sounds, when you look at it, it just sounds really scary.
Yeah. I love coffee enemas. Yeah. And the reason is because you feel like $1 million after you do a coffee enema. And so why on earth else would anyone put coffee up their bum? Because they're getting some sort of benefit from it. And I've had a lot of people that were kind of like, yeah, I think I'll pass on that, especially guys. But then after they start doing them, they give it a try, then they're off to the races, and they start doing them on a regular basis. And I do 1 or 2 a week. I used to do them like every single day, but I don't think that's necessary. It may be if you're chronically ill, and it's definitely something that, a lot of natural cancer clinics will have their patients doing coffee enemas several times a day, because we've got to get that liver moving, getting the toxins out. And so when you're doing a coffee enema, you're not really cleaning out your colon. That's not the goal. So we're not trying to do you could just do a water enema if that was the case, if you're trying to clean out your colon. With the coffee, we're trying to use that caffeine to travel up the portal vein to dilate all the capillaries in the liver. So the liver is going to be irritated, and then it excretes toxins and bile that contain toxins into the intestines for elimination. So it just kind of speeds up the whole detox process. And some people like them every day, but I tend to be an advocate of just, at least start with 1 a week, and then maybe every other day is a nice pace while you're in detox mode.
And who would a coffee enema not be for?
Yes, so it would not be for someone that you can do coffee enemas if you're caffeine sensitive.
That's what I was wondering, because that caffeine makes me woohoo, planny, a little bit anxious. Yeah,
well, it's interesting. So, when people, it's kind of a catch-22, because when people are caffeine sensitive, they tend to have a congested liver but you can start with doing liver flushes. You can do 1 a month, and that can go a long way to improving your ability to metabolize caffeine without the side effects. And you just, because, if your liver is not working that great, caffeine metabolism will be slower, and you're going to get real jittery from it, so but some people just genetically just don't process caffeine very well. So it's a genetic issue as well. And we all vary in that. And so, but if you are caffeine sensitive, you can still do a coffee enema. Just use a tiny amount. It might even just be 1/8 of a teaspoon. You only have to use the amount of coffee that elicits a response in your body. So it doesn't have to be that much. I use 2 big heaping tablespoons, but that's me. I'm not caffeine sensitive, but you can start with the low amount.
Organic fair trade coffee.
Yes. Yes. Only, please.
And what about, so would you do it the first half of your cycle, not the second half? Trying with that because the liver, or what's your...
No, you know what? I'm a big fan of, if you're having your menses, to do coffee enemas because it can relieve cramps. Okay. Coffee enemas are great at relieving pain, relieving headaches, relieving anxiety, depression, all stuff you can experience during your period. And so it's a great way to help relieve those symptoms.
Do you have a resource for that if someone wants to learn a little more?
Oh, yeah. I have tons of free information on myersdetox.com. There's podcasts and articles about coffee enemas, the benefits, how to do them. And then my 14-day liver rehab program, there's a whole little liver rehab program you can go through if you want.
Okay, great. And what about saunas? Which ones do you like?
Yeah, I love saunas. I love infrared saunas. Mm-hmm. And those are fantastic at doing a number of things, getting you into that parasympathetic nervous system state so that you can relax, reduce stress. And also the sweating has many therapeutic benefits, sweating out metals and chemicals. And then we have that faux fever that's induced, that raised body temperature that helps to kill off pathogens, viruses, candida, parasites, things like that. And, Louis Pasteur wrote a 1,500-page book on, heat therapy. And because before we had, penicillin and antibiotics, that's what doctors used was heat therapy. And so there's a huge book on that you can check out from the library if you want. Or there's new books about it. But yeah, thousands of studies showing the benefits of infrared in any kind of sauna works. So even if it's like the sauna at your gym or a far infrared sauna or a near infrared sauna, just get in one. But the regular saunas, say at your gym, they get really hot. So you can't stay in those for very long. So they're not terribly practical. The infrared saunas, because the rays penetrate inside your body. And so they kind of irritate your cells and cause them to release the metals and chemicals inside of them. And so you have more productive sweat. So you have more toxins in your sweat, more, better time spent in a sauna than if you go into just a regular sauna at your gym, like a Swedish or Finnish sauna, though many, many benefits from that. There's a 40% reduction in death from all causes just from using regular saunas 3 to 5 times a week. I mean, it's crazy. But an infrared sauna has just more benefits.
Do you have a brand that you like?
Yeah. So I really like SaunaFix. It's a great sauna. The lady is brilliant. She's Eileen Durfee. She's a nuclear engineer, and she's really thought about all different types of things to improve it. So she's got like reflective material on the inside, so the sauna heats up super fast, and you don't have to stay in as long, and it increases the intensity of the rays because they're like reflecting all over the place, and then they hit you, and then they hit you again because of the reflection. Mm-hmm. And then she has this little air filter inside of it that filters all the toxins that are being evaporated from your sweat. And then like a little hat, like a little swimmer's hat that protects your brain from heating up because infrared rays can't penetrate clothing. And so she just thought about a lot of different things. So I like the SaunaFix.
Neat. And then what about making sure to rinse afterwards?
Yeah, you want to run to that shower. You want to do the 50-yard dash and get that sweat off of you. But, I find also when you're in the sauna, you're wanting to towel off because you're really dripping. And so I find that I'm just constantly toweling off. And that's another method too that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Great. And so we're going to obviously recommend your website, but is there a book or a website, an app, a documentary, anything that you're obsessed with right now and wanted to share?
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually doing the coronavirus support series.com. Okay. And nothing to do with detox, but, stress impedes fertility. And a lot of people are super stressed right now on lockdown. They've lost their job. They have the kids at home, and people are so stressed. There's a lot of uncertainty. And so I created this completely free event. You don't even have to give your email. And I've got, dozens and dozens of, speakers talking about every imaginable topic to help people through this crisis.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So coronavirus support series.com.
Perfect. I'll put a link in there. Yeah. And is there a success story you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes, I had one client that she was a nurse and she'd been trying to get pregnant for about a couple of years without success. And, was doing, contacting different people. She'd work on the diet and she was working on supplements. And then she was working on, reducing stress and doing all these typical things. And then she found me, she heard me talk, heavy metal toxicity kind of just made sense to her. And then we detoxed her for about a year and she got pregnant finally. And now she's got a 4-year-old boy and she's super happy. And, there was a lot of things that she was doing. She was very proactive in her own, in meeting her health goals, but definitely heavy metal detoxification played a role as well.
Nice. And then if you have a free download here for the listeners, so heavymetalsquiz.com is a quiz. So what can they expect there, I guess, after they've done the quiz?
Yes. So if you go, I wanted to create a quiz for people to help them figure out their relative levels of toxins in their body, and just a quick lifestyle quiz. And then after that, you get a free video series that answers a lot of frequently asked questions about, what kind of metals testing should I do? Or how long do you need to detox? And where do you start? And so I answer a lot of those questions in that free video series.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your words of wisdom on this topic. It's fascinating. And I don't think many people even think to go and look at this. And there's really, as you say, some quick, easy things you can do just to start with to make changes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to be complex. You can go pretty deep with it, but it doesn't have to be expensive or time consuming. But the basic things I outlined here will really get you in moving in the right direction with detoxification.
Love it. Thanks a lot. Melatonin is important for female fertility. It helps regulate hormones and maintain the body's circadian rhythms. Plus, it helps determine the frequency and duration of the menstrual cycle. Plus, it impacts sperm count and motility. Blue and green light negatively impact our melatonin production. That's why we recommend Blue Blocks, blue and green light sleep glasses to all our one-to-one clients. Simply go to Blue Blocks, BLUBLOX.com, and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast at checkout to receive your 15% discount. That's BlueBlocks, BLUBLOX.com, and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast. Hey there, I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 2 spots available per month to work with us. So the Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Call is for action takers, really people who are ready to move forward so they can finally have their baby. And if you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. So if you're seriously considering working with us, go to FabFertile, FabFertile.com, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. That's FabFertile, FabFertile.com, and click on Book a Free Call. I'm excited to offer you a special gift. If you are a U.S. resident, text Fertile, Fertile, to 55444. You'll be prompted to enter your email address and you'll receive our fertility yoga download. In this 20-minute intro video, we focus on a calming and peaceful practice to connect back to our heart. These simple yoga poses can help quiet negative thoughts and make you feel more in control. Download it now and get started today. For U.S. residents, text Fertile, Fertile, to 55444. For non-U.S. residents, go to Yoga Freebie, Freebie, to access your special gift. That's yogafreebie.com to access the free fertility yoga download. The Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, including show notes and links, provides information with respect to healthy living, nutrition, lab testing, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.